We are now talking to ESPN Cleveland radio host Matt Fontana. What's going on, Matt?
You guys want me to tell you about Josh Donaldson? Because he was here for all of 2 months, and I think he got like 15 at-bats, got hurt. That was it. So it really didn't work out too well when he was in Cleveland.
No, it didn't.
He's one of those guys I just don't know how. I mean, like, former MVP, I get it, but you just keep signing, you keep seeing the deals, and you go, how do these guys just keep pulling this stuff? Because you guys are, I mean, like, again, I know he's a good player. Like, I understand why, the Indians at the time, the Guardians now, like, traded for him. But he was here for a playoff run, and he was hurt he came back just for the playoffs. I think played 3 games or something like that, and that was it. So
he hasn't been good in the playoffs either.
And here's another thing. Donaldson has never played in a lineup as good as the Yankees. So maybe being protected with all the players that the Yankees have around him, it's only going to make him a better player because he's going to see better pitches and more pitches that he can hit over there in Yankee Stadium. And by the way, his numbers in Yankee Stadium, 333 career hitter in Yankee Stadium, 13 or 14 home runs. I mean, he's a pretty good hitter in Yankee Stadium with the protection that he has with Judge and Giancarlo and Gleyber Torres and DJ LeMahieu. That's a pretty good lineup with him in the lineup. So you can't argue as a Yankee fan that if he stays healthy, it could work. So why don't we get into the Cleveland Browns, because that's the story over there. I mean, first of all, this Baker Mayfield thing has really, spun, okay? Baker Mayfield comes out. He says he wants to be a Brown for life. A couple months ago, like 5 months ago, he was like, I want to be a Brown for life. I don't care what the fans say. I don't care. My wife got involved, blah, 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 blah. All of a sudden, Baker Mayfield, a couple of weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, says that he wants out. Trade me. I don't want to be here anymore. And then all of a sudden, DeShaun Watson, his name was getting brought up in conversation, and then DeShaun Watson's agent said that the Browns were out on him, and then the day after, they get DeShaun Watson for $230 million extension and giving up 3 first rounds, a couple other picks. I mean, ridiculous to give away their future. But DeShaun Watson, what did you think about this whole move?
I mean, it was one of the craziest things that we've ever dealt with, just because you started out with, like you said, Wednesday, we were out of it. The Browns were told, that's all right, we're going to move forward. And then, you hear Thursday that they had scratched off, another team off the list. I think it was Carolina. So now you're down to these 2. So, we did shows and had conversations Thursday and then Friday leading up to the actual breaking news of, all right, what are the Browns going to do, right? Like, let's get prepared for Jimmy Garoppolo. Can we make a run at Derek Carr? Actually, the biggest thing was, okay, if DeShaun Watson goes to Atlanta, which everybody thought he was going to, we'll trade for Matt Ryan. And then, in the afternoon, my producer literally, he just stands up and he just had this look on his face. And I was like, what? And he's like, the Browns just traded for DeShaun Watson. And I'm like, are you kidding me? And I think just that swing of going from completely out of it to landing him, it wasn't even like, hey, the Browns are back in it, right? Or like, hey, he's going to meet with them again. It was literally, you went from not having a prayer to he's coming to the Browns, so that was just a complete whirlwind. And there's been a lot of reaction, right? Some people want him on the team, some people don't. I was one that I didn't want him on the team. I said that even when they were entering the discussion to bring him to the team, I didn't want him on the Browns. I don't really feel that different today. The only thing that'll really potentially change my opinion is hearing from DeShaun one day about the off the field situation and the allegations against him, and that won't probably come anytime soon just because he's got so much going on. So that's one side of it. And then you brought up Baker Mayfield, right? Baker, in a way, could be part of the reason why the Browns doubled down their offer. There's reports that the Browns were told they were out of it and they kept maybe after it, but that they also got a vibe from Baker that he was not coming back, right? So there was reports that the Browns sat down with Baker and his representation at the Combine to say, hey, just so you know, we are going to try to go after one of these big quarterbacks, Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, and DeShaun Watson. And just so you know, that's what we're going to do. And wherever it led from there, fine. And then maybe Baker and his team got the sense that they were out on Watson and that offended them to the point where they weren't going to come back. Browns realized, okay, well, he was our second option, plan B. He doesn't want to play for us anymore. We need to double down on plan A and really go get DeShaun Watson done. And that's where they offered the fully guaranteed 5-year, $230 million deal, which has never been seen before in the NFL.
So you said you were one that wasn't an advocate for trading for DeShaun Watson. So are you still worried about a potential suspension risk? And if so, even with the charges dropped that we know right now, how long do you think it could be from the NFL?
I would be shocked if he's not suspended. There's precedent of Ben Roethlisberger was technically not criminally charged. Ezekiel Elliott was technically not criminally charged for their off the field, and they both got 6 games, 4-6 games. So I'm operating that he will get suspended. I think the question is just how long. Is it 10 games because of the amount, 22? Is it the 6 because that's the precedent of not being charged criminally? And I think a lot of people brought up Calvin Ridley, right? Calvin Ridley bet on a football game, and he's going to miss the entire year coming up. And you're not going to suspend DeShaun Watson that same length. And I understand a lot of people's take is, well, it's innocent until proven guilty, and technically he didn't even go to court, right? A grand jury didn't even indict him on these charges, and there's a civil, and I understand that, but I continue to look at it with 22 stories of very similar accusations. I have a feeling that something inappropriate happened. The NFL is doing their own independent own independent investigation, which is actually continuing on while he's still being in depositions for the civil lawsuit. So there's a lot going on, but I'm operating, and I would be shocked if he wasn't suspended, because I'm operating on that he will be.
As everybody knows, we are talking to ESPN Cleveland radio show host Matt Fontana. Now, Matt, we talk about Baker Mayfield, and listen, I think Baker, for all the stuff that he was dealing with this year with the hurt shoulder, playing as hard as he did, dealing with the fans, the boos, the chants, his wife protecting him all over social media and trying to protect him. I mean, I don't think he needs his wife protecting him. I think he's a grown man. We all know what Baker Mayfield did over there in Oklahoma, okay? Running around naked all over the campus over there. So we all know what Baker Mayfield is and his personality, and we see him on all the television shows and television commercials. This guy is a superstar, one of the faces of football right now. You look at Baker now, and you're wondering, where is he going to play? Is his career over? Obviously, there are teams really trying to rebuild. Matt Ryan goes over there to Indianapolis. A lot of people thought that he would be a perfect fit in Indianapolis. Seattle's still looking for a quarterback. They still have DK Metcalf. They still have Tyler Lockett over there and a decent running game. Where does this guy go? I mean, where does this player who really threw himself under the bus at the end of the season and then all of a sudden 2 weeks ago saying that he wants out, where does he go?
I don't know. I mean, I don't see it because, Seattle seems to be the last standing team, right? Carolina said today they're out. Atlanta's good. Indianapolis is good. Washington is good. Even if you wanted to send him somewhere to compete with, I don't know, Daniel Jones for the Giants, well, they signed Tyrod Taylor. They don't need him there anymore. Send him to a team that's kind of like on this, teeter of we could maybe make it or we, not. Well, that was the Colts, and obviously they're done. They're good. So I don't see anybody left except Seattle. And I know there's reported interest there. I just don't buy that because Seattle's beginning a full-on rebuild. No matter how good they get that team, they can't compete in that NFC West anytime soon, which is how stacked the 49ers, Rams, and Cardinals are going to be. So I'm assuming they're going to sit back and go, listen, we need a full-on rebuild. In a way, we already got a jump start on this because we have a top 10 pick this year. Might be smart to take a quarterback there, but ride it out with Drew Lock. Let him play. And then if you do draft a rookie in the first round, eventually that guy will play, right? Because you're going to want to see what they have. This season, make it modest or something. Go 4-13 or whatever it is. You have your quarterback great. If not, there's supposed to be a better quarterback crop next year. But Baker Mayfield doesn't do that for you. Drew Lock does. He's going to probably lose a lot more games than he'll win. I think Baker Mayfield could actually be successful in the NFL. So you were looking for a team to say, we're going to take a flyer on this guy. We think we can fix him. We think we have an offense that works for him. But I just don't know who that team is. And I don't see a team lining up. And I really think it goes back to a conversation I was actually just having on my show is the fact that really what hurt the Browns was there was a couple really good classes of quarterbacks. With Burrow and Tua and Herbert and even last year's class with Trevor Lawrence, they're not ready to give up on Zach Wilson with the Jets. Mac Jones is certainly doing good. They actually wish that one of those guys sucked. I guess maybe, Daniel Jones could have gone back with that, but they wish that there was somebody that, okay, this guy will come in and push Baker, and there's not. because there's teams with maybe more inexperienced quarterbacks, but not enough for them to discard them. So really, of the 32 NFL jobs going into the offseason, I wasn't sure how many jobs would actually be available. It turned out that there was probably about, 8 that actually would be available. Now you're down to 2, and Carolina already told them we're good. So your guys' guess is as good as mine. This might have to be the Browns releasing him and eating almost $19 million on the cap.
Let me ask you a question about the history of the Browns. By the way, this is Mark Kelly talking to you. Very, very nice to talk to you over there in Cleveland. Going back, obviously we know the Browns' history of quarterback. Okay, whether it's Tim Couch or even like a guy like Jeff Garcia, they brought in for 1 year. Derek Anderson had 10 wins, and then you found out he was taking performance enhancing stuff. Any of these quarterbacks, going back to maybe Brian Sipe or obviously Bernie Kosar. So this was a chance to maybe get a career guy, a guy that could make his mark in Cleveland, because Cleveland's never really had that quarterback. Going back to Kosar, we know his popularity in Cleveland and taking him to 3 championship games. So how much was that a factor, even though we don't know what his status is going to be and if he's going to be suspended, to have a guy with 33 touchdowns, 7 picks, over 4,800 yards as last season? Did that play probably the biggest factor in replacing Mayfield, who had a good year last year, but wasn't what they wanted overall from their number 1 pick?
Yeah, I mean, I think the case could be made, and it was actually my producer and I don't necessarily see eye to eye on this, because my producer feels like DeShaun Watson will be the best quarterback that's ever played for the Cleveland Browns, like outside of Otto Graham, right? Otto Graham,
I forgot about him.
7 championships back in the 50s and all that kind of stuff, but he included, Sipe and Kosar and anybody since the expansion. I wouldn't go quite as far as my producer did on that, but yeah, I mean, without a doubt, DeShaun Watson, just on what we expect and what we've seen, he will go down or at least taking the field whenever he does. He is probably a top 5 Browns quarterback. Now, that being said, I also thought Baker Mayfield was a top 5 to 7 Browns quarterback just for some of the things that he did. But I think like a lot of teams, you look and you see this, Matt Stafford trade where the Rams, that was a missing piece and they won the Super Bowl, right? You see these just super talented young quarterbacks all over the AFC, and you have to ask yourself a tough question and go, can we compete with that? Can we win with that? Can we win? Can we go up against these guys? And there was some part of the Browns that said no with Baker Mayfield for one reason or another. I've heard things that his relationship did sour within the building, just as far as coaching, front office, things like that. The shoulder injury didn't help anything. Him leaking things during the season did not sit well with many people in the front office in Cleveland. And by the end of it, it was pretty broken. And that's what happens when things like that, once you kind of divide, there's really no coming back. And that's kind of where Baker's stance was even this offseason, when there was reports that the Browns might even want to talk to him and bring him back. He said, it's too fractured. It's too broken, which is sad because people expected Baker Mayfield to be the guy. He was, without a doubt, the most popular player for the Cleveland Browns since they came back in 1999. He's not the best player. Myles Garrett is probably the best player. Nick Chubb is one of the best running backs in the NFL. I see a lot of those jerseys. I do. But I see a lot more number 6 Mayfield jerseys. Him and Joe Thomas were the 2.
Are we forgetting about Kelly Holcomb's performance in a 2002 game against Pittsburgh
that
they blew a 10-point lead with about 2 minutes left? I mean, 400 yards you passed for in that game?
Oh, if Couch wouldn't have broken his leg, that's one of the biggest what-ifs in Cleveland, is what if Tim Couch wouldn't have broken his leg? Because, Holcomb got the start, and then the next year they had a quarterback competition between the two, and a lot of people said he should have just given it back to Couch, but a lot of what-ifs.